podcast, episode 50 of the longest running European Stadia podcast in the world right now. Thank you for joining us for what is quite a milestone on the Sounds of Stadia podcast show. We've reached episode 50, which I'm rightly being informed by one of my co-hosts is a golden anniversary in wedding terms.
It's not a golden anything else. It's just a golden anniversary.
Just an anniversary.
When you've made when you've been married for 50 weeks, people have to give you gold. Apparently.
Oh, okay.
50 weeks.
50 weeks.
All right.
That's one to look out for, Tom. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, for the podcast where we bring you all the gaming news and Stadia stories wrapped up in a nice condensed podcast form for about an hour or so. We talk about all the games, all the updates, all the live streams, and everything we do here at the Sounds of Stadia team. Joining me, as always, this week, we've got my lovely host, to my right, your left, Mr. Tom, the techie teacher, joining us from the Overwatch League. Is that what
not the Overwatch League, no, League of Legends, the LEC. It's actually the finals today, so I'm supporting my team jersey. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good weekend.
Represent.
So go Fnatic.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to that. I've got a quick question about it. And below our techie teacher, the man of many pixels again, with his guitars on the wall and his purple cube, Mr. Richie. How are you doing?
I'm supporting my team, Team Instinct.
Yes, Team Instinct.
Oh, nice.
Bringing out the competition.
Yeah.
Bringing out
That
the
wasn't
competition.
planned.
That wasn't planned.
It's all good.
So quick question about your top, Tom. Obviously, those jerseys for esports. Is the material made of the same stuff like a traditional football, soccer, rugby jersey would be made out of?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a breathable. I think it's a breathable material. So I could take this out if I wanted to go jogging or anything like that. I'd be very comfortable in doing it. It's quite nice as well. They do print the custom names and things on that into the fabric as well. It's not like the old school, where they used to press the letters and the numbers.
Go through the wash one and it's crap.
Yeah, no, these are great, and price-wise, they're not too bad either. I mean, a customizable one is about £65, depending on the franchise.
Who's the manufacturer? Because usually it would say Nike or Adidas, but yours says BMW, and last I checked, they make cars, not...
With the other side, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they actually have their own printing company that deals with it. It's purely just sponsors, so sponsors BMW, OnePlus. Right. We've got AMD,
everything.
There as well.
You can play Stadia on the OnePlus phones, right? They're Android based,
absolutely.
So Philly boots.
Doubling up.
Not sponsored. So as we said, episode 50, we've reached quite a milestone. We've got another one coming up massively on the horizon as well. This week we're going to be talking everything about the upcoming Ubisoft Forward. We're very excited for that. We'll be getting into our predictions later in this episode. Some stupid name changes, in my opinion, and some Stadia news in regards to launches of particular features that are not quite here yet, gentlemen, and some other stories that you could only get on Stadia. But before we get into all that, we have to look at the housekeeping for this week, so you lovely listeners and viewers out there kept in the loop with all things Sounds of Stadia and what is going on in our particular channel. My 10th episode, part 10 of the Monster Boy series, went up this past Saturday, and it was, I'll be honest, I know I give everyone weekly updates, but this one was hard. This, I think, was the hardest I've ever... So at the beginning of this episode, I recorded 2 back-to-back, and I thought I'd made it past the checkpoint, and it took me right back to last week. So for those who watch part 9 and are about to watch part 10, you are in for one hell of a shit show.
Sort of hamstringed yourself ending up in that checkpoint with 2 hearts, didn't you, really? It was just shit, how do I get past this again?
It's so harsh, and so much so that I died that many times. Those of you listening to the podcast that obviously drops every Monday, you've got a special surprise for you that dropped on the Sunday just gone. I've got a lovely little 5-minute death series recorded up to go. So if you've not watched the series already and just want to watch me basically suffer for 5 minutes straight, check out that video. It's going to be on YouTube as you speak, as you listen.
I'm looking forward to watching that.
Oh, I'm not. Actually, once I edited it, it just brought memories of pain and suffering back to me. Haunting memories. We also jumped into the biggest title to drop on Stadia this past week. Not NBA 2K21, unfortunately. Sorry to all you basketball fans out there, but Earth's Mightiest Heroes... Not Super Bomberman, no. Earth's Mightiest Heroes are in town, and we all jumped in this past Friday as Iron Man, Thor, and who was the third person? Captain America, of course. Yeah. It's because he's dead. It's because he's dead. I totally forgot he was in the game. The marketing with him being front and centre on the art cover and stuff did not make me think he was gone. But yeah, we played in that. First thoughts on the game. I loved it. I'm having a blast with it.
Well, I think I was the most sceptical out of the 3 of us, and I had a blast.
Yeah,
I love that word, blast.
Yeah, blast.
Like
I feel like I use it all
the
the
resonating
time.
blast or whatever it is.
A repulsor blast.
Repulsor blast. That's what I'm
blast.
after.
But in terms of the game
great.
itself, anyone who's concerned about checking it out, I was similar to Richie. I had my reservations, and I feel like the lack of MCU in our lives for probably the longest that we've had in a decade, nearly, it feels like. And the situation with like kind of games being on the quiet front up until I think the back end of the year, I was just excited to play something. I think a combination of their marketing, a big game coming out on Stadia, and the chance to jump in with you two lovely gentlemen, the community going forward with playing as some of my favourite superheroes of all time, was just too tantalising to miss out on. And the story so far, I'm having a great time with it. It's more intriguing and a lot more in depth than I ever considered. And Kamala Khan she's a great character. She's a great protagonist to start the story off with, because she is essentially all of us. She's the fangirl, she's the fanboy inside us who loves these heroes, and she gets to interact with them, and you get to see the game through her eyes. So that was really fun. And jumping in with you two to do just some multiplayer missions, great time. We just kicked the shit out of aim baddies, right?
Yeah, pretty much. See, I wasn't, even when I was playing the beta, I wasn't on PlayStation, I wasn't really sold on it at that point. It just felt kind of generic and just didn't feel great. But jumping into it last night, it felt so much better. Like, it actually felt good to play as like 4.
Okay. So you would say that you saw a marked improvement over the beta compared to the final release experience then?
Definitely. Just in the way the game feels. It's like, it's hard to really describe it. It's just...
Yeah. No, I'm in the same camp as you. Richie, we obviously played the beta as well, and it felt a bit raw and like rough around the edges, which I know betas, they should feel like that anyway, because they're not the final product. But getting hands-on yesterday, it just really, really felt a lot more complete, finished. Iron Man felt great to control. It didn't feel as clunky. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to play the other characters, but I've played as Hulk in the campaign mission so far, and yeah, there's just kind of that extra little bit of polish, that bit more time in the oven, clearly seems to have paid dividends. And the hype online from the reviews and people and the Twitter sphere and the YouTube world, it's getting hyped up, and it's great, and I think it means a lot for the game.
A big part of my skepticism was it just seemed, from what we'd seen in like the war tables and stuff, it just seemed like quite a very generic game with a Marvel skin over it, and I was worried that most of the hype was coming from the branding of it rather than the actual game. I'm glad to say, well, the beta was fine, and that's about the best I could describe it as. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't particularly good. This is actually a good game.
A good game. Awesome. And we're no doubt going to play some more as well as time goes on, because there are many missions and Stadia initiatives to take part in. So we'll keep it locked to the channel and keep us tuned in for some more Avengers fun. If you are new to the Stadia, by the way, and you're joining the podcast and you're enjoying what you hear, and you're thinking about jumping into games such as Avengers or other large size games such as Hitman 2016 that just dropped as well, these games clock in at about 50 to 100 gig, give or take, and day one patches. And we mentioned it on the stream, but my biggest takeaway with Avengers was a game that clocks in at around 75 gig. The second it came out at 5 PM, I jumped on, I bought the game, and I was playing it within 2 minutes. And that can't be understated, because everybody playing it on PlayStation. I've seen one of the actual actors, the character actors who plays one of them, sent out a tweet of the game installing, just to say, like, oh look, I've got the game, I'm going to be playing it day one like the rest of you fans. But that download was going to be like a good hour and 20 minutes or something, and it's just so alleviated with Stadia. It can't be understated.
That's an hour and 20 minutes that you could have been doing something else. I know if you buy digital versions of the game, you often get like pre-installs.
Yeah.
I actually had that with Tony Hawk's 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So it was actually installed on my console like a couple of days before it launched.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're buying the physical version, well, you put the disc in, you wait an hour or two.
Exactly. And if you are curious of how fast it can take, head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia, and check out our From Purchase to Play series, where essentially we take big games on the platform and we highlight how quick you can play them, from buying to playing in no time whatsoever. And I don't think one of those videos is longer than 5 minutes yet. That's how quick it is. If I give you a game like Call of Duty Warzone, which we know isn't on Stadia, but that clocks in at about 120 gig, I think it is, you need some shit hot internet to deal with that. So
it's usually about 2 or 3 minutes and you're in the game.
Yeah, and
I think I did one with Doom that clocked in around about 2.5 minutes, but I had to register for a Bethesda account as part of that process, which just kind of to show you the speed that we're talking.
Yeah, that delays you the most. You've got to create an account. That's the arduous part of the whole thing. And then the final point we will mention, we touched on it briefly, but the Ubisoft Forward is coming up this Thursday. So if you're listening to this podcast Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or even Thursday, in fact, check us out. We go live at 8 p.m. UK time for a watch along to the Ubisoft Forward, and we've got our predictions later in this episode. So stay tuned, keep listening, and we'll get into all that exciting predictions. Because who doesn't love a predictions episode? Gents, who doesn't love to get wild, wacky, and crazy, and hopefully get more than 1 point this time round, because we've not done great. I've actually tempered my expectations this time. Okay. I say that now until we get to them, but I'd like to think I've tempered them with an air of reality. And a massive shout out as well to, of course, our Patreon. So anyone who supports us on the show, it's massively appreciated. Trust us, we would not have made it to 50 weeks, 50 hour or so long episodes every week consistently. We've brought this show to you, and it really is made all the more easier with our lovely patrons out there and all the support we get. So massive shout out to Dave, who's our newest patron just this week, subbed as well. So you get exclusive content, Dave, and you can check out our post show all the earlier as well until we drop it for free on YouTube later in the week on the Wednesday as well. And we've got a good one this week, actually. We're going to talk about our top Stadia Pro games to date so far. So we've been teased and thankfully given many Pro games over the last couple of months, and it's definitely saw me through some non-gaming times. You know, when you don't know what to play, and having just like a smorgasbord of games at your disposal to just jump in and test out has been amazing. So we're going to be talking about that in the post show. So if you are keen on supporting the channel, don't forget to head over to patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. From as little as $1 or just 79 British pence, you can support us on Stadia. And before we can get to our exciting Ubisoft predictions, we need to pause for a second and thank Brian for stopping in last week. Let's not forget about Brian from Club Stadia, who did jump in and help us when Tom was absent. So thank you again, Brian. Great guy over there at Stadia, and all the Stadia Initiative crew as well. So massive thank you for jumping in and helping as well. And he did your part, Tom. That's what reminds me of it. He did a great rendition of the I'm not going to say it because it's not my place to say it.
He certainly did. He certainly did. Yeah, I did watch the episode back, and he did a stellar job. So massive thanks to you there, Brian, for stepping in for me and filling my shoes. It was good. It's good.
Yeah, it was awesome having you on. But I'm slightly disappointed in what we've just done there. We missed a perfect chance to transition.
No, we didn't, because you can transition any way, shape, or form. He did a great rendition of the
to the super sexy special Stadia Stories segment, aka the news. How's that for you?
That's lovely. No one can replace you, Tom. No one can replace you. Even with all the energy they bring, it just doesn't. It's just not the same. But like you said, the news. It's another busy week. So before we get to our predictions, let's start with unfortunately some news that kind of ruins one of our predictions. It kind of damages the predictions a little bit when we get all these leaks early. But straight out of the Ubisoft camp, thanks to a Taiwanese ratings board, the ever-present titled game that we have, some of our lovely people in the community have actually played on Stadia. Let's not forget that.
It's true,
Orpheus leaked on Stadia earlier this year, but it's not going to be called Orpheus. That's obviously probably the project name, I guess. And neither is Gods and Monsters anymore, because Gods and Monsters is not a good enough name deemed by Ubisoft. The Taiwanese ratings board has rated it as Immortals: Phoenix Rising.
Is it Phoenix or is it Phoenix?
I mean,
I would say Phoenix. Looking at that, I would say Phoenix.
Yeah. I would lean towards Phoenix.
FedEx.
FedEx. FedEx Rising.
FedEx Rising. It's the new delivery company against Amazon.
Yeah.
That sounds like Get Packed.
Yeah. The reason I lean into Phoenix instead is because it takes me to thinking about Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War, and that was spelt very similarly, only it was Fenix instead. So I'd lean. I think it's going to be more Phoenix. I think it's going to lean into that like mythology element, because that's what the game's about. Really.
Yeah, I would prefer it to just have been Phoenix, but obviously if this is the protagonist's name is Phoenix or Fenix is what's the guy in Hunger Games? Is he called Fennec? Or is that a different?
Fennec is a bit different to Phoenix.
And what about? But if it's spelt like this, and then what about what's the shop in the UK that's not Harrods? Fenix. Phoenix is a shop, right?
I haven't even got a clue what you're talking about at this point.
You've completely lost me, Chris.
Oh, Richie, you've been in Newcastle. Phoenix. Fenwick.
Yeah, I've been to Newcastle. I haven't been in every single shop.
They do the Christmas window every year. It's like Harrods, but not as London-y.
Oh, is it like your equivalent, like a John Lewis or Debenhams? It's a department store.
Yeah. Richie's
Right,
seen it.
okay.
I'm going to get a photo of him next to it at some point.
I mean, I probably have seen it, but I don't really care.
Either way, that besides the point.
That is obscure, Chris.
That besides the point. Let me know in the comments if you've heard of Phoenix, the shopping centre department store in the UK. Besides the point, though, this is a stupid ass name, right? I don't like it. I'm just going to put it out there. I was so sold on Gods and Monsters. It told me, just by the title, I kind of knew what it was about. Gods and Monsters. And we knew it was kind of inspired by Breath of the Wild, we're going to presume. But to have it going for so long and the launch be so imminent to then suddenly switching betas out for a different name, I don't know why. I don't know. I think I was just settled on Gods and Monsters.
I just kind of think this whole development cycle and with the marketing is just kind of been a bit of a clusterfuck, to be honest.
Or
There's no better way of putting it, is there? Really, that is what it is.
Can you right here and right now tell me what this game's about?
I'm going to tell you, I don't even know what it's about, and I don't even know if I care anymore. If I'm going to be honest with you.
This is exactly my point. It's like it's so much on people's radar because of things like, it's changing its name, or it's got this leak, or they've announced it working on a new game, but we don't actually know anything about the game, apart from those who've obviously played it.
Yeah,
Eddie knows all about alpha.
Yeah,
that's apparently it was an early E3 alpha. Who the hell knows at this point? I mean, we've gone through two potential name changes, like you said before, Gods and Monsters, and then potentially like the code name Project Orpheus or whatever it was.
Yeah, I'd say Project Orpheus was literally probably always planned as this is just the code name for the project, and Gods and Monsters was a working title. So I don't think that's problematic for that to happen, but for this to happen in public is where it becomes problematic.
The thing is, it wasn't the name. Like they had a logo and a box art design for the title drew up, and it looked fitting for the name of the thing. Like they had the ampersand in the middle, and it looked all fancy and kind of like stoically Greek. But I don't know. I don't like the whole bait and switch last ditch change. I was comfortable looking forward to Gods and Monsters later this year. Now Immortals, Phoenix Rising. It sounds so generic, right?
Well, it's just so bizarre that like it's published Ubisoft, but it's Ubisoft Quebec that are actually developing it. So it is, it's the established Assassin's Creed base for for me to sort of like have to look at this, or for most of us actually to look at this game and just see like the different renditions that they're going through for it when they sort of can't stick to it. Do you think it might have had something to do with like some sort of clash with where they were going, the direction they were taking Valhalla? I mean, I don't really know. It just feels like it's sort of like the project that has now become like the bastard stepchild.
I'm going to give them a bit more credit. Maybe like Gods and Monsters was the original title, and they started planning the market and stuff around that. But then as the game developed and the plot developed, they realized that it wasn't really about gods versus monsters. Like
it's about immortals.
It seems like maybe it's a bit more about this one particular character. Maybe it's like the monsters aren't really a big part of the story.
Okay, so
anymore.
they are kind of, Richie, because I can fill you in a little bit more on that by our next story, which is the Microsoft Store actually leaked the release date for this game. So there goes one of our Ubisoft predictions. The Microsoft Store listed the game for a 3rd of December release. So that would give us another Ubisoft game this side of Christmas. And more importantly, from the Microsoft Store gatherings, we've also got a brief blurb for the game, Richie. So I'll read it out for you. So, Immortals Phoenix Rising brings grand mythological adventure to life. Players Phoenix, or Phoenix, as Richie prefers, on a quest to save the Greek gods from a dark curse. Wield the powers of the gods to battle powerful mythological beasts in the air or on the ground and solve ancient puzzles. The fate of the world is at stake. You are the gods' last hope.
Ooh, okay.
So there's a bit of an insight. So it definitely has gods and it definitely has monsters.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, on there.
So now I'm actually looking at the latest screenshots. It's got this like Kid Icarus vibe about him. Like he's got wings coming out of his back. He's got a bow and arrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Phoenix now.
Yeah, maybe I'm starting to sort of lean into possibly having that sort of flame rekindled.
Okay.
Possibly be...
Okay, so the screenshots are tickling your fancy a little bit more.
Do you get a feeling that your character's probably going to die very, very early on, like before the game properly starts, and then comes back as with his new mission and his new powers? Like,
of course, yeah, you're going to be resurrected by one of the gods or something, and then
you're the only one who can save us.
The last hope.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
Obviously, it's coming quite soon. Like, we'll blink and it'll be Christmas before we know it. This is a game that's always been on my radar. I loved Assassin's Creed Odyssey so much, and I've played it through twice now. And the fact that it is the Assassin's Creed Odyssey team spending more time in ancient Greece, which after making Odyssey and the live tour part, which is very educational, it tells you about, they've done so much research into that history. It does not surprise me that they can then transit away to a more colourful. I'm trying to say like an artistic palette, essentially, that's not a true reflection of what Greece looks like, and more of a grand gods, immortals, like very like grandiose Mount Olympus kind of style game. And I've always been excited for it. I just don't like the name change switch. I honestly think like Gods and Monsters, even Gods and Monsters : Phoenix Rising would be better than Immortal. Like throwing Immortals in there just kind of, I don't know. It's too
I'm
generic.
with you there. It's entirely possible that the concept of the game did start off with the Assassin's Creed team in the research for Odyssey. Like, here's some concepts that don't really suit Assassin's Creed, but could be worked out into other games.
Yeah, I mean, Assassin's Creed Odyssey obviously treads the fine line between staying true to the Assassin's Creed franchise, which is it's set in the real world or the real historical alternate world, whereas you can tell they've wanted to lean into the gods and monsters aspects, so like not the title gods and monsters, but the actual mythological history that comes with Zeus and Hades and Minotaurs and Harpies and stuff. They've wanted to lean into that, so I think this has definitely been an outlet for them taking all that research and going, just make a crazy game, because at the end of the day, games are all about fighting big bosses, right, and defeating levels and vanquishing foes. This allows us to do that in such a colourful, rich sunset palette, washed palette, which I'm excited for. I just hate the name.
It's almost just like they're tagging it now as essentially to line it up for a series. So like, are we going to get an Immortals something else? Are we going to get a third Immortals 3, that kind of thing? Yeah. Like, are they going to go with that? Are they going to go with different characters? Because if the main character is going to be this Phoenix and the story is centered around Phoenix, and if they were to go for sequels, why not call it Phoenix something instead? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a bit weird that they're going for that, leaning into that Immortals sort of tag on there.
Imagine with any new IP, there's always the hope that this will spin off into like a new actual IP, and especially if it's a narrative driven with like a single main character. It's like, okay, Phoenix is going to be the star of this franchise. Yeah, but
definitely,
we'll see.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I just feel a bit sour. They may even do a U-turn by now, a U-turn.
Yeah.
We've not seen a U-turn, a big U-turn. Yeah, we've not really seen much more. Yeah. But there's also character models came out where obviously there's going to be cosmetics by the looks of it, with loads of different armor sets. No different than Assassin's Creed, obviously, on that front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. I prefer Gods and Monsters. If I was to put you on the spot right now, Tom, and say make up another name that's better than Immortals: Phoenix Rising, could you do it?
Probably not. I'm not. That's not my wheelhouse.
Richie, you give us a name. Go.
I don't know enough about the game.
You don't have to. Just Greek history. Take any Greek shit, put it together, and come up with a better name. Go.
Gods and Monsters.
That's such a cop
out. What a cop out.
Hey. Immortals.
Gods and Monsters : Immortals : Phoenix Rising.
Minotaur Madness. There you go.
Wow.
That sounds like it should be like a mobile game, almost like an Orcs Must Die style game.
I think that existed on Windows 95.
Minotaur Madness.
There you go. That's DLC for Orcs Must Die. Orcs Must Die. Minotaur Madness.
Minotaur Madness. Can you solve your way through the labyrinth deep within the island of Crete? Is it Crete?
What is going on?
I'm just coming up with a better name than Immortals. That's what
Minotaur
I'm doing.
Madness.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Happy Harpoon. That's another one.
Why don't we just call it Flappy Greek?
Flappy Greek. Yeah. But either way, thank you once again to the Microsoft Store for leaking that ahead of time. We obviously got a locked-in date for December 3rd, so it's not too far away. They've had a good run of it recently at Microsoft Store. Actually, they dropped Star Wars Squadrons, Call of Duty, Cold War, Crisis Remastered, and the Mafia trilogy, all ahead of time.
I feel like they're flexing a little bit. I feel like it's like we know something you don't know.
I can't tell you. Can't tell you yet.
Shh, it's a secret. Exactly. It might be part of the odd marketing push for Series X, to get people talking about Microsoft and like Xbox. By leaking these things, we keep linking it back to Microsoft.
Yeah,
we did a whoopsie again. Sorry.
I mean, Call of Duty was revealed on a Doritos packet, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So
and we have talked in the past about how sometimes you do associate games with certain like consoles, even if they are third party. Mm-hmm. So maybe that might be something like Microsoft is trying to artificially create.
Just
like,
the leak
because we leaked the game, people start associating it with them.
Well, half of marketing is leaks nowadays. Let's be honest; it works in every aspect.
Yeah, I forgot to say tinfoil hat time.
Tinfoil hat time.
But speaking, sorry, I was just going to say very quickly, it's this whole thing that any news is good news, isn't it, really? It's like publicity in terms of publicity.
It gets likes, it gets shares, it goes viral, people click it and theorise. Yeah. Unless you give it a really shit name. And now it's good. But again,
we spent 20 minutes talking about it.
Well, exactly, but again, leaking that name, that might be a good test bed for them to go, nah, change it back. Change it again. We've got till Thursday to switch it, because they've already got the art assets, so just change it back. We want, don't call it Orpheus and don't call it Immortals. Remember, Minotaur Madness. You heard it here
they've got 3 days to do another 3 days for another Ubi turn.
Yeah,
Orpheus Corn, Harpy Harpoon.
Harpy Harpoon, that's the sequel. If we had the time, I would make this game and create it, but I neither have the ability nor time to come up with something like that. Yeah. But if anyone wants to,
we'll call it ability and time then.
Yeah, if anyone wants to out there in the Stadia community, feel free to take that name and run with it. Minotaur Madness. It's like Bomberman. You're in a maze with a Minotaur, but from above. Yeah. Speaking of Bomberman and crowd share and crowd play and other things that are on Stadia or not on Stadia otherwise, our third/second story of the week comes in the form of Super Bomberman R Online dropping on Stadia this past 1st of September, and everyone's having a blast with it. I can actually say blast in the context this time around, and there's been some kind of, I feel like, sourness in the community a little bit around this one, because Bomberman was one of those games that it showcased crowd play. We saw the likes of Juggernaut and Karim Jovian streaming it on YouTube, and it's launched and the feature's not there, and Stadia silent on the front. So this game's launched without the features that was showcased ahead of time, and I feel like the community just kind of like, we should caveat this, by the way, Juggernaut has still been streaming with the ability to do crowd play. It's just everyone else who doesn't have it yet, but there's been no official statement from Stadia around it, and I think this is where the ruffled feathers are coming from a little bit, because they're just not telling us anything.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if they've got like some issues in the background that they're trying to resolve, and maybe that's why they're leaving it, letting Juggernaut, etc., still use it so they can gather more data.
But I still feel like it's frustrating that we're getting these other YouTube sort of entry point channels for most people to come into Stadia, like sharing it with the established Stadia community. It seems like a very far-fetched way of dealing with it, because the previous way of marketing it was you'd have the likes of Karim and Juggernaut posting on Twitter and saying like, right, come join us, Mortal Kombat 11 tonight. Really excited, we're going to be showing off crowd play, blah, 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 blah. Except this time Juggernaut tweets out saying, while it's sad that crowd play won't be available for the retail launch, I still have it. Yeah, it's the wording of that I don't like. Like it's very much in your face kind of.
But he shouldn't have
I don't hold this against Juggernaut at all. Just
no,
just to clarify that, it's like
absolutely not.
Crack on, mate. You're doing a good job.
But he just shouldn't be the person to have to deliver that news to the wider gaming community. Like, it seems weird that he's been used as the news outlet.
This should have been in last week's blog before the game came out, saying, just FYI, here's the list of new 6 games. By the way, crowdplay isn't quite ready yet. It's still available to watch on streams and such, but it won't be available for public, as we're still working on some finalised features or points.
Yeah,
I agree with the blog. I'm usually critical of them using the blog as an outlet, because I think unless you're like an avid Reddit user, you're putting information in a place where most people, like the wider community, and probably not going to access it. This sort of information makes sense for a blog.
Yeah, I mean, with
crowdplay, a bit more of conversational style, like, hey, this is still coming, we're not ready yet.
Yeah, with crowdplay being like specific to Stadia with this launch, I think Tom's froze. I think Richie's froze. No,
I think
you're
you
back.
froze.
No. From my end, I'm recording it, so you both froze. Isn't that
That's been
right,
happening a few
viewers?
times
Isn't that
recently.
right, viewers out there?
Yeah.
And listeners, obviously, but you can't. We just go quiet when we freeze. But yeah, crowd play in specific. If this was any other feature, like imagine if this was a game launching without, say, like multiplayer, and it's your free pro game. It's launching on the 1st of September, day and date, as a pro game. So everyone who picks it pretty much it's going to be a pro game. And multiplayer wasn't there. And Stadia didn't come out and say, by the way, the multiplayer aspect isn't going to work in this game. There'd be a bit more of an uproar, but I think because it is crowd play, there's only really streamers at the moment who are probably that focused on it.
It's because crowd play isn't a feature that has been released formally yet. That's why they maybe get a bit of a pass.
I was gonna say I don't think it's necessarily the fact that it's something to be majorly like worried about. I think it's something that we sort of have to like think about for a moment. It's not going to affect 99% of the people who are the player base. It's going to affect the content creators and people who maybe want to get into streaming it. So
and their viewers.
It's not, but it's not really a deal breaker per se. It's just an anomaly, I think. So it's something that I think could be swept under the carpet because it doesn't affect the fact that the game came out, and the game is a blast. Again, I shouldn't have said blast. The game is brilliant. The game is really fun. It's really, really fun, and you know, it's innovative. Yes, we've seen it with Tetris 99. This idea seems to be becoming more commonplace in new types of battle royale-esque games, shall we call them? But it's not broken by the fact that crowd play isn't available.
I think that's what we dilute the appeal of the game, though.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because I mean, I'd be more likely to be engaged with that game if I'm playing with people I know about. So if I was a content streamer I cared about was playing, I'm probably more likely to jump in to play with them than just play on my own with randomers, really. Unless you're a huge Bomberman fan.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it does dilute for the more casual audience.
Potentially. In regards to Bomberman itself, that game doesn't really give you the best of tutorials to start. It's basically, it goes, played this game before? No. Want a tutorial? Yes. Just try quick match and see how you go with it. And it just throws you in with an online game.
It's almost like it's trolling you.
It really was. I thought...
Have you really never played Bomberman before?
No.
You call yourself a gamer.
I know. It may as well have just done that. I obviously picked Solid Snake and went in there with it. But I got through to one of the next two runs, but I didn't survive very long. So, we got some pro games. Speaking of other pro games as well, we also got Hitman. Hitman 2 dropped at the same time, interesting. So alongside all of our other titles, Hitman 2 dropped on the store, which we didn't really get a confirmation date ahead of this. It was just, here's your new games, and it just happened to coincide and drop with it. So alongside that, there's also a pro discount deal, so you can currently pick it up for $27.49 as a pro price title, with the expansion pass and the gold edition also getting discounts. Which, when you look at the prices, actually, the Hitman 2 would normally be £54, dropped down to £27, and the Gold Edition, they're still asking for a whopping £80 at standard retail, dropped down with Pro discount to £39, which is a great discount, but it shouldn't be £80 to start with, because that game came out in 2018.
Yes, it did.
I kind of feel like maybe 50 quid for the Gold Edition for Hitman.
Yeah. I think it was controversial when the Hitman games came out, though, that it was going to be episodic in the first case. Because I remember when Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics made the initial announcement. Sorry, not Crystal. It's IO Interactive. Sorry. So when Square Enix and IO Interactive for the original Hitman announced that it was going to be episodic, and you had to pay I think it was a reduced fee for the first episode, but then you had to pay for each episode after that. I think that got quite a bit of an uproar. So it looks like they've basically just taken whatever's left and just gone, let's put a price on it.
No, so that was Hitman 1 reboot, which was episodic.
It was.
I didn't mind it being episodic. A lot of that just comes down to the price and how much content are you getting for your money up front.
Yeah.
Because if you're happy with the amount of content you get for your money up front, it being episodic is fine, really.
Yeah, but we spoke about it on previous weeks where I think the episodic format it didn't benefit Telltale. I don't think it benefits Don't Nod, who make the Life is Strange games, and I think all three of us wait until everything's out before playing.
And I think it does benefit them if you do it properly, but you have to give the roadmap. You have to go, here's the date of all the episodes. And there can't be like 6 months between episodes. It needs to be probably for me at most a month between.
So has Final Fantasy VII Remastered coming along, Richard?
That's a different ball game because that is such a bigger game. Then,
You're right, that is a longer ball game.
Life is Strange, for example.
That's that is a longer game. But in terms of Hitman or this type of game, I would personally think it works. And obviously we've seen in the sequels after the fact they've regressed back to the traditional method of releasing games. But if you bring out a core game and then the DLC is almost episodic, that I feel like I would prefer. But the story I'm trying to get at with this week is it kind of loops in with our Only on Stadia segment, because something interesting happened, and Tom, you reaffirmed this as well. I picked pro game up, Hitman, claimed the game, go to play it. I jumped in to test it out a little bit, and obviously, just like our purchase to play series, the game loads up hella quick. You're into there straight away. But Tom, you, like myself, were hit with a prologue video introduction to the game, and then the title sequence said something a little bit different. It said Hitman 2.
It did. Yeah, it was a little bit crazy because it actually throws you into the initial level of Hitman 2.
Yeah.
Not 1, into Hitman 2. You can still get to 1 after you finish the first mission for Hitman 2.
Yeah, so...
Which was really weird.
I didn't experience that. When I jumped in, I just played the tutorial mission on the boat, which I know is in Hitman 1 because I've played it before on PlayStation.
Yes, that's right.
And that's where I dropped out.
So that's what you should have expected. No, so that's what you should have expected. But when we launched the game, we went straight into the Hitman 2 prologue, which starts with you hunting down, it gives you the full prologue of what Hitman 2 is. Where
spoilers,
Hitman 1
spoilers,
ends. Yeah, it is basically a massive spoiler. And then all of a sudden you're on the beach outside this fancy beach house, hunting down one of the special agents who's dealing with something to do with Hitman 1, which I'm not going to spoil, but it's just what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
I'm literally playing Hitman 2 when I'm supposed to be doing the intro to Hitman 1.
I don't even own Hitman 2.
yeah, that's what was getting me. I was thinking, have I accidentally clicked buy on Hitman 2 by accident?
Am I going to get billed for this?
Did something happen? Or they gave me the incorrect pro game? So essentially, once that happened to me when I was trying to record the capture for our purchase to play video, so apologies to anyone who's checked the purchase to play video and thought, hang on a minute, that's Hitman 2. Thankfully, the video is just showcasing how quick the game boots up, not the actual game itself. Yeah. But I did some digging, and it was picked up. I think Grace from Google did confirm that there was a problem with it, and they were going to work on it. And obviously, if you've jumped in since, Richie, and it just put you straight into the first game, as it should do, it works fine. But over on Reddit, apparently Hitman 1 and 2 are the same game client for Stadia. They just unlock different versions of content. So essentially Hitman 1 and 2 are the exact same. They run on the same engine, they run from the same servers, I presume, but all the content is just broken up sequentially. Whether this is back to the episodic format they had originally, or it's a kind of complete Game of the Year edition, because it is the World of Assassination version that we have on Stadia. The brief of it on Reddit is essentially the longer version is you can play Hitman 1 in Hitman 2 on the console versions, and PC is free DLC if you already own 1 or paid DLC you've never owned, just to add some complexity to it. So it looks like IO ported Hitman 2 on a Stadia, then rebranded Hitman 1 World of Assassination, and are now giving away the Hitman 1 portion of the content when the Hitman 2 game boots up. So in Hitman 2 proper, it plays that level, but when you beat it, it takes you back to the tutorial, which is what me and Tom had to find out. You had to essentially go to the menu and start the prologue tutorial first. But this is something that could only happen with either Stadia or cloud gaming, right? Because if you bought the disc or you bought it on PS4, Xbox, you just get that game. Whereas because the way this has been repackaged for Stadia, they've clearly put the wrong wire in the wrong hole somewhere.
I don't know if they are planning to have this World of Assassination as just a client where you boot all 3 games from. It could realistically, even if you had the game, that would probably then trigger the installation of the client on whatever platform you're playing on. So
it's a case
it just seems to happen because it's on Stadia.
It's the case of booting up Netflix, isn't it? And going to a series and press and play. And Chris, as I'm sure you've experienced before, all of a sudden you're on season 3, episode 1, when you actually wanted to start season 1, episode 1.
Yeah.
I hate when things like Netflix just for some reason skip a season.
It assumes you want to start on the latest season and not the original, even though you've never watched the show before.
Yeah, that caught me out on. I'll tell the story, Tom. That caught me out on the US Office. It was Amazon that caught me out on it, where I think I watched episode 1, thought, oh, this is fun, and then I watched what I thought was episode 2, but it actually put me to episode 9 of it, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, where's Steve Carell? I'm sure he was more in this more. Where's Steve Carell? Why isn't he in this featuring more? 5 episodes in, thinking, oh, there's John Krasinski. He's with the receptionist girl who I anticipated he was his girlfriend anyway. Lo and behold, to me, I did not know that actually relationship developed over several seasons. But I'm all up to date now. But besides the point, yeah, it's essentially we're booting Hitman up. I'd be very intrigued to know if Hitman 3 then runs on the same premise, and we're just going to get them all in the world of assassination, quote unquote. But either way, it's something you've got to laugh about, and I'm sure they fixed it now. But it's an interesting approach to your gaming menu. Also, quick one while we're on Hitman, Tom, you've played a little bit of it in between your sneezes. Bless you.
Thank you. Bless me.
When you go to start a campaign, did you know how to boot up the level straight away? Because I went through there's all your information on like the weapons and tools you're going to take into your mission. Here's all your information on how you could approach the mission, and you've got all like the kind of tiles broken down. But there was nowhere that actually just said start mission. There was like you could pick your difficulty, and I was picking the difficulty, but there was no like actual press start essentially.
I think for me, I've watched a lot of like YouTubers playing like the original Hitman game when it came out, so I'm sort of like used to the UI and stuff like that. I had an idea of what it was I was going to expect.
I mean, I figured.
I appreciate. Yeah, it's not intuitive. I think that much is very clear. I think that the UI is nice, but it's a bit
convoluted.
It's a bit clunky. Yeah, it almost feels like it's overcompensating a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, to be fair, maybe I was just through for a loop a little bit by I thought I was playing Hitman 2 all of a sudden, and I was thinking if I click this button, I'm going to get took back to Absolution or Hitman Go by accident. Just boots up on a totally different game.
For me, it's literally I'm sitting there like playing it, and I'm just checking my bank account, refreshing. If I've been
just
billed
in case.
For
you don't want to be billed that $79.99 for the gold edition of number 2, do you?
That's steep. That's really steep.
Yeah, it is. It's really steep. Speaking of rebranded, rebooted, repackaged things, the new news this week was Witcher 3 is apparently coming to next gen. Now, no confirmation on Stadia just yet, but please, CD Projekt Red, you are currently working hard away on Cyberpunk 2077. Toss a coin to your Witcher on Stadia as well, will you please? And bring this port over, because for someone who's not managed to complete Witcher on old platforms, because I just haven't found time in my life, it's one of those games I admire from afar, and I've played bits of, and I appreciate the TV series and everything else. I've just not had the time to get to it, whereas I feel like on Stadia it would really just give me the push and next gen graphics. So gentlemen, what do you think? Do you think it could come to Stadia with Cyberpunk on its way? It's on Switch. What do we think?
It's a game I want to see it. I really, really, really want to see The Witcher 3 on Stadia. We spoke very briefly prior to recording that Richie, I know you've played a ton of it. I've played a lot of The Witcher 3, but I haven't actually finished it. A lot of the DLC is still left undone for me.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of the DLC, but I've rolled credits twice.
I'd still like to get that complete edition of everything packaged together, just to be able to experience it again. But to almost like utilize that cloud gaming service of not having to wait too long for loading, and just to get like the highest fidelity graphics and like the highest frame rate and so on too, because even though it is a fantastic game, I know with the amount of detail and the amount of content within it, sometimes it does slightly suffer as you're moving around. Sometimes it might just chop a little bit. So I'd love to get it, but I think it's going to, for me personally, I'm hoping it doesn't come to this, but I feel like it might sort of like be dependent on how Cyberpunk does, because we don't actually have a date for the for the Witcher 3 updated version yet, do we? For when it comes out next gen, because we don't know when next gen's going to be yet.
I'm hopeful that because of clearly been working on, because it's not just a port, they are doing a lot of up-res textures, it's going to have things like ray tracing, it is an upgraded version of the game. I'm hopeful, I'm not going to say I'm optimistic because of Stadia, that the reason we haven't seen it come to Stadia is because the Witcher 3 team have been working on this, and that we might get the next generation version.
Okay.
The thing is, I'm in the camp where as much as I would love to see it come to Stadia, there's a very, very slim chance of me actually buying it on Stadia because I already have it on PS4, and because CD Projekt Red, from a consumer perspective, continually being one of the best publishers in video games,
100%,
are giving us the basically giving me the PS5 version for free.
Well, not only that, but when they released The Witcher 3, they also there was a really, really nice note that came with the game as well that said, like, thank you for investing in the game, to show like our love for you, for your support. You know, you can expect all of this stuff that we're going to do for free just for purchasing the game. You're absolutely right. Like, CD Projekt Red have always been there for the consumer, and that's why they're such a standout company in this current like climate that we're dealing with in like the gaming sort of ecosystem itself. What always gets me is when we get these announcements, particularly from the game and from a platform itself, where they say, oh yeah, it's coming to PS5 and it's coming to Series X. But if it is coming to Stadia, why can we not just say that? It says PC as well. Why can we not just get that announcement?
My assumption is that I assume that they've considered Stadia.
Okay.
But maybe they haven't got a version working on Stadia yet. If they were, maybe I think a lot of it comes down to, unfortunately, Stadia doesn't have the player base to be considered in the same bracket as Xbox and PlayStation at the moment. They will be focusing on getting this running smoothly on PS5 and Xbox first.
Okay.
And I think once they've got that, they'll probably then port that to Stadia and see how it goes.
But they are early adopters of supporting the platform anyway, because we had Cyberpunk announced like literally right from the get-go. So we know that they are invested in it, because otherwise they wouldn't have spent the time developing for it. So
could be Google money talking, though.
Then Google needs to put their money on Witcher 3.
Yeah, I agree. But
give me Geralt of Rivia.
Something like Cyberpunk, it's a statement as well for Google. And CD Projekt Red are not that big as a publisher, as a developer. So if Google throw them a bag of cash, you're going to take the bag of cash.
Yeah. Although we know from the Witcher 3 sales that I think when the series dropped on Netflix, the sales like 300% increase on my previous.
It was like another 5 million copies sold or something. It was ridiculous.
It wasn't on sale on Steam as well for something like
it was the game
at the time as well. So they're just
timeless classics. Speaking of timeless classics, though, gentlemen, who doesn't love predictions? Who doesn't love talking things up that may or may not happen, the futures that will be? So that's it. That's it for the news this week. We've wrapped our stories up, and we're going to get into the juicy part of the show, the juiciest part, the steak, the medium to rare steak. Let's have a look.
I'm not optimistic here. But we haven't got a very good track record.
But this is the time we can turn it around, Richie. This is when we can turn it around. So, Ubisoft predictions. I've wrote mine down. I've got them. Richie, have you done your homework this time? I know last time you just winged it.
I actually have. I've done my homework.
Excellent.
I didn't forget about it. Chris told me last night after we finished streaming to remind me. Which is a good job, because I hadn't actually realised the Ubisoft Forward was next week. So.
Yeah, Thursday, baby. Let's have a look then. So, speaking of which, the predictions, by the way, yes, tune in this Thursday for us. It starts at 8 p.m. UK time. Whatever that time is around the rest of the world. I did have it up then. You know what's interesting with times, actually, as well? They always post, like, they've got 11 a.m. Pacific time. They've got 9 p.m. Central time. Why do they always leave off the East Coast with those things in American time?
No love for Florida, apparently.
New York. Like some of the bigger, either way. To be fair, we get shafted all the time with it anyway, usually. 8 p.m. UK time. There is a pre-show that does start at 7, so an hour ahead of time. We may jump into the pre-show slightly early, but definitely jump into the chat, watch along with us, because we have great enjoyment just basically seeing our predictions get messed up and
destroyed
and throughout. But to get into it then, gentlemen, Richie, you're going to take notes as per usual for the for them as well. Who would like so let's think, how do you want to do this? We need some concrete rules set in stone. How 2 game announcements each or 3 game announcements each?
It's tough because again it's just a single publisher, and based on what we've seen historically from the last events, these aren't very long.
No.
They're not as long as we might have thought they were. So perhaps we do need to rein it in slightly.
And they seem to be coming more frequently as well.
They do.
That's it. We may actually have another one before Christmas if you think about it. Because we've
maybe
got
December the 3rd when
it seems like every other month, every 3 months or something.
Yeah, I mean the last one was in July. Then we've got this one in September. But I'm thinking they may sneak a cheeky one in before like all the fall games, winter games drop. But either way, the
quarterly update would probably make sense.
Probably, but again, once E3's back, like all the announcements we've seen all this summer, I personally would have preferred them on stage at E3 in one event. I think we're all a bit drawn out with just the gaming announcements over the summer have just been so all over the place. I actually, even though I've thought E3's been dying a slow death, I actually would prefer to have that all just in one condensed weekend. Get all the big announcements reveals out.
Yeah, if you have that one big showing at E3, then there's less focus on the smaller things, and that's when the Ubisoft Forward can, if it's like a couple of times a year, here's an update and a few things. It's not going to be a big deal though.
Indeed. And we should probably mark it down as Gods and Monsters being rebranded and re-revealed doesn't count.
Can I just actually say, at the last Ubisoft Forward predictions, I did say that they will rename Gods and Monsters, but I did also say that we'll get a date, box art, and collector's edition. So, do you know what? Like, I mean, I never would have thought.
Points
no. I never would have thought that they would have changed the name the way they have.
Yeah, no, Minotaur Madness is such a crazy choice.
I know.
I would have thought they would have announced a new name here at the Forward.
But I think that's the intention. I think it's just a leak. It's just a leak at this point. So I think it is still intended that they're going to.
Okay, cool. Right. Who would like to go first then? Should we go?
I'm going to let somebody else this time.
What rules did we have? We didn't actually.
No, we don't really have time.
Should we just say 5 predictions?
I mean,
each?
we could just do it as a collective for a change. Yeah. I mean, we're not allowed to see each other legally to have a pizza if we win a pizza bet anyway. So. Right, I'll go first. I'll kick us off. If we go alphabetically, it is Rayman's 25th anniversary.
Oh, you bastard!
We're not. I've just said we're not taking it for points.
All right.
It's a team effort. For episode 50. It's a team effort. We're going to show our solidarity together.
All right.
It is the Rayman 25th anniversary. I am going to go with we're going to get a remake of the original game in some kind of like up-resed collection. Maybe it's with the first game 1 and 2 maybe bundled in. So I'm not expecting a new title. I'm expecting just a collection for their anniversary. Because Rayman 1, OG Rayman, I have put so many hours back on PlayStation. What?
So Tom, I'm guessing by your reaction, Rayman was on your list as well.
Well, I predicted a new Rayman game the last time, so when he said Rayman, my initial thought was, the bastard's gonna do it.
That's what I had. A new Rayman game.
All right. Well, who was going next then?
Legends was 2013.
Yeah,
that was the last one. So it's been 7 years.
I'm going to sort of stick with what Chris said because I do like the fact that I like the idea of like a remaster or re-release of the original Rayman games.
Test the waters, see if there's if the audience is there.
It's going to be 4K 60 as well for sure. Mm-hmm. Like it's going to be 4K 60 because that's what we're starting to see a standard of now of these like cartoony-esque 2D games. I think we're going to see. I think we could very much see that. It's quite likely that we will. As for my prediction on that, if you don't mind, I think that we're actually going to see a bit more information about. They talked about the VR version of Prince of Persia: Dagger of Time. I think we might hear a bit more info about that again. Maybe some footage of it. Ooh, footage in game.
Yeah. I think I wanted
Pretty
to stay.
Tame this time.
I decided to stay away from Prince of Persia because these rumours around it, but I'm not convinced by them. I think it's one of them. It's a beloved franchise that Ubisoft to kind of let fall by the wayside. So I'm thinking, is this just the industry trying to will it into existence by every time Ubisoft do anything? That suddenly there's rumours about Prince of Persia.
You do wonder where these rumours come from, but then again, it's rumours like that got us a Crash remake, that got us a Tony Hawk's remaster, that got us Spyro, so where you don't get smoke, you don't get fire without smoke, and you got to make smoke first. Second, I don't know.
Make smoke first.
The one I'm going to throw out is something on a completely different line. We know that there's going to be an update on Rainbow Six Siege. I think we're going to see a lot of info about the next generation. Okay. But there's not going to be no references to Google Stadia.
Oh, so you're adding in a caveat of Stadia talk.
Okay.
I will go off the back of what you said there, Richie. And I'm going to say we finally hear what Rainbow Six Siege Quarantine is up to. But more importantly, we get a release date in time for this Halloween.
Ooh, spooky.
I think it's got the zombie monster things in. I do still feel like it may get a rebrand just because of the whole Quarantine title, which we've discussed in previous episodes. But I think it's been quiet for too long, and I think if they want to get a horror-based game out, what better time window to get it out in than before Halloween? And Ubisoft don't really have... I mean, they've got plenty of games coming out in that time period, but they don't have anything horror-focused.
On Ubisoft Store is still listed as 2020.
Okay.
I mean, everything got pushed back. This would have been out by now. So
there's other things I say coming soon, but this is it's still listed under 2020. So we're running out of 2020.
Yeah. Quarantine.
So
I
think
Halloween.
If it's not coming out, I think we'll get an update.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think this is the point where I have to confirm it is coming out this year or it's not coming out this year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think July has come and gone, and Ubisoft revealed, showcased, and is now out Hyperscape. I think they talk about I think...
Sorry.
You can say that's a prediction, to be honest.
Sorry, say that whole part again, because you froze.
Sorry, I was going to say Hyperscape Season 2. Full content gets announced and discussed. If we can take that. I mean,
we can, but if we were playing for points, I'd be fighting you against that one, because it's not really a prediction. It's kind of, yes, we know that's going to happen, because we know Hyperscape is going to be there.
Well, they could have cancelled it.
Building on Hyperscape, I've put down again now to next generation platforms.
Okay.
I feel we're getting to the point now where we're going to start seeing, especially the games of service stuff, confirmation that they're coming.
Do you feel like they might just come out and hit us with all of them and say For Honor, Siege, Hyperscape, everything is going to be on PS5 and your progression's going to... I feel like they might just do a blanket. Everything that's Division 2, everything that's kind of live as a service is just going to come across.
Actually,
I can kind of see it almost being like a sizzle reel, but when they talk about the individual games at the end, when they have the splash screen at the end, it'll have PS5 and Series X logos on there now.
Yeah. I do think if there's going to be any time to do it, I think now is the time that we will start to see the announcements of all of these are coming to next gen, because this is we're into that hype, building sort of stage now where they've got to ramp up the marketing for it. So I think that's a decent prediction to make.
Yeah, I think we've got to also be very wary of. We still haven't heard about the release dates from Xbox or PlayStation yet, and I've got to imagine a lot of these third-party deals are now brokered already with those platforms to say, Division 2 on PS5, upgrade for free and get... We saw it with Grand Theft Auto, right? If you play Grand Theft Auto 5 still, you're going to get 1,000 Shark points or something right up until launch on PS5. I think all of these deals for these games, like I said, Richie, a sizzle reel I think would be fantastic, but I think if we can go into next-gen launch in late November or whatever it may be, and everyone's always like, oh, which console had the best platform launch, which games are going to be able to play? A lot of these live service games, if they can move over and be there day one on next gen, that's going to make that transition so smooth. If you've got Fortnite and Division and all these other, and Destiny, all these big games day one with your brand new console, and it's faster, it's quicker, it's better graphics, that's going to be a great launch window for everything. And hopefully Stadia can get in on that business by not having to physically buy a new box. So
I think
I'd go
for
with
me,
sizzle reel.
The reason why I like a sizzle reel idea is I think it can, throughout a longer show, in the middle of it, can kind of change up the pacing a bit. And if you can just introduce and go, Ubisoft, we're committed to bringing the games you love to next generation. Check it out. Then there's a sizzle reel going through just shots of them all playing on next gen hardware. So it's that moment where everyone's like stopping and pausing. Oh God, that's Rainbow Six. That's the Division. That sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's Tom Clancy's Elite Squad.
I'd say feeding off the back of that, we're probably going to get a similar sizzle reel for Uplay Plus. I feel like however many new games have been added to it, and I don't think we'll hear about Stadia specifically. I'm still estimating we're going to get an announcement for another Connect soon, because we are in September now, gentlemen, so you can't leave it much longer before it's going to be your anniversary and you've not said anything. Happy birthday. Yeah. Quiet.
My general thoughts are, I don't think Ubisoft care where you buy the games. They're committed to putting the games on Stadia, but they're not going to be the ones to announce things that are coming specifically to Stadia.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think that we're going to see anything specifically mentioned about Rainbow Six Siege coming to Stadia.
I wouldn't be surprised if we go through this entire predictions or the actual entire Ubisoft Forward, without seeing a single Stadia logo. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it is purely focused on next gen. I really would not surprise me in the slightest if it is 100% focused on PS5 and Xbox Series X.
I think you're right. It's like I think it's kind of on Stadia to a logo where it needs to be. Ubisoft.
You know what? I'm gonna make another addition to that as well. Not just PS5 and Series X, but actually I would not be surprised at all if they use the time to actually talk about games that they're porting to Switch as well, because they seem to have started to do stuff like that. But I don't expect to see the Stadia logo, but I'm not taking that as a negative in any way whatsoever. I'm just saying that's not their focus. Like, it's not their focal point. That's not their selling, key marketing point.
The guys at Ubisoft are putting this together are not focusing on Stadia. Stadia's just probably a tick box that someone has to make sure in certain games that the logo's there. But that's it. That'll be all they think about, probably, unless Google intervene.
Yeah, but that's for our Connect predictions. So what have we got? Anything else that you feasibly, realistically can see happening?
Let's take Richie's bold one from last time, right? Okay. And this is really, really bold. So I'm not expecting anything from it, but let's just put this wish list out there. I think you will know. Netflix have recently teamed up with Ubisoft. They're actually going to be releasing a Splinter Cell series on Netflix. Let's see if we get Splinter Cell back in some way, shape, or form. Not just Elite Squad, but just something Splinter Cell.
The way Ubisoft are handling this IP at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if they said, "Oh, we've got great Splinter Cell announcement. It's going to be in the Rayman remake as a skin. He's going to be in Immortals: Phoenix Rising as a downloadable character. He's going to be in Rainbow Six. He's going to be in Far Cry 6, but." You're not getting a Splinter Cell game. No. He's going to be in every game but.
The reason I'm so adamant that this Splinter Cell game must be in the work is because they keep putting Sam Fisher in things. They know exactly what they're doing with that. It's causing people to speculate that there is something in the works. And it's like, if you wanted to move away from Splinter Cell, full stop. You wouldn't keep bringing Sam Fisher back.
But they're doing an animated show for Netflix, so I wouldn't be surprised even if it's just a bloody mobile game, if it's some sort of animated Splinter Cell mobile 2D side-scrolling stealth action game or something.
Splinter Cell Go.
It could be
Splinter Cell Mobile Ops.
There you go. I'm going to go with it. It's going to be probably a remake of the original Splinter Cell for next gen. Ooh. That could work.
Oh, I was going to say on mobile.
On mobile.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you do something, because it's like shit or get off the pot, right? At this point, it's like, how long can you keep driving? Like Michael Ironside, if he is still doing the voice for it, he's just picking paychecks up for these little pointless cameos.
Maybe it's just an inside joke for Ubisoft. Like, we must work Sam Fisher into everything we do just to piss people off, to keep the speculation coming.
Maybe. But so to wrap out our predictions, then. That's I think what we would feasibly predict. Any crazy mad ones you want to throw out there? Any things you think might happen? As if Ubisoft are thinking this is our last show of 2020, we've got all of our games because of lockdown and such have all been stacked. Let's remember, we should have been playing Watch Dogs by now. We should have been playing Gods and Monsters, Tom Clancy's Phoenix Rising, whatever it's called. We should be playing that by now. Obviously, Hyperscape dropped out of nowhere. We've got Assassin's Creed on the horizon. There's a lot of big titles from Ubisoft all stacked for this end. Far Cry, obviously, very early next year in February. So realistically, we don't know what's coming out past Far Cry. So do we think there's any big balls to the wall prediction, gents?
It's not a big one for me, but Brawlhalla, there's something there because we know I think it's going to be in the pre-show where the devs at Blue Mammoth are going to verse the Ubisoft news team.
Right. That's not a really big prediction.
It's not a big prediction, but maybe something to do with Brawlhalla.
Tom, give us a big one. Just a tinfoil hat. What do you think?
Skull and Bones rebranding, new name, Immortals, Pirates.
I forgot about Skull and Bones.
Tom Clancy's Immortals, Pirates.
Tom Clancy's Immortals, Skull and Bones, A Pirate's Life for Me.
Did you get all that, Richie?
Mobile.
Go.
Let me type.
For me, I think Skull and Bones, I think, is if they've got to talk about. If not, my big one that I have an inkling might happen. I honestly feel like The Crew 3 might be announced.
All right.
Just because I think they want to wrap up that trilogy. Just like I have a feeling if Watch Dogs doesn't do amazing things, I think that might be the end of the Watch Dogs franchise, unfortunately, as we know it. I think Crew 3 is one that it gets a bit of hype, but I don't think it's as beloved as Ubisoft probably wanted. So I think they'll put a bow on the Crew franchise with the Crew 3, and then they'll probably launch another racing-esque game in another 5 or so years from then. But I could see that being like the big final out.
I consider that, but Crew 2 isn't even that old. I think it's 2019 launch.
Was it? I thought it was quite a bit older than that. Either way, that's my prediction. Whether it's wrong or early, we shall see. Do you have a big final one, Richie, that's not Brawlhalla? Big game. Dig deep.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to see anything about Assassin's Creed, really, because I don't think we need to at this point.
No.
I don't know. I think we've covered everything. I'm looking at the biggest titles, like things like Far Cry's not till February, so probably not much there. I think this is one where that'll skip. Legion, maybe? But that's February as well.
Legion?
Watch Dogs Legion is October 29th.
That's this year.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember I predicted November and I didn't get the fucking point.
Oh yeah, because you were a day out, weren't you?
I was a day out.
Yeah, I think there'll be something about Watch Dogs Legion. I don't think it's going to be much, though. It's
okie dokie. Wonderful. Yeah.
Well, probably something new. Something new we've never heard of. There we go.
Something new.
Yeah.
Something new. Something borrowed and something blue. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are our Ubisoft Forward predictions for September 2020. And also all the Stadia news and chitter-chatter brought to you by myself, Chris, my lovely co-host, Tom and Richie. Thank you for tuning in for episode 50 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. The golden anniversary. And that's the only thing that's golden, remember, Tom? Gold. Because you're...
Gold.
We're not going to sing. No, we're not going to sing them out this week, Richie. But again, one big final thank you massively for everybody out there who's supported. Like the video, subscribe to the channels, follow us over on social media. It really does mean a lot to us, and we'll be celebrating with you all these upcoming weeks as we reach episode 52 and we reach our anniversary. So even if Stadia don't do anything for their anniversary, we'll be damn sure we will be doing it. Will we even be drunk? Probably, but you'll have to stay tuned and locked to the channel to find out how drunk we are, and will Richie shave his beard? You'll have to keep it locked to find out. He might do it, ladies and gentlemen, and then we might glue it to Tom's face after.
There may be some pen tattoos.
That's a weird show. That's a really weird show.
It's our anniversary. We've got to get weird. But like I said, once again, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned next week for episode 51 as we creep up on that anniversary date. And don't forget to join us this Thursday for our Ubisoft Forward live watch-along and reactions in the moment. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been beardless Richie.
Bearded Richie. Yeah?
Bearded Richie.
Bearded Richie, get it right. I always picture it to be like Lego, it just clips off and then you put it to the side and just put it back on.
That's how I wash it, I just put it in the washing machine.
Yeah. Do you wash Lego?
I mean.
Anyway, we've been Sounds of Stadia. Thank you very much for watching this week. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.